Sex Education, Christine Blasy Ford, September 26, 2018. They've been trying to use Christine Blasey Ford to stop the anti-abortion Kavanaugh from being elected to the Supreme Court. It has backfired because of my Twitter tweets. Christine Blasey Ford didn't want to answer the question of why she didn't come forward 37 years ago, allowing millions of women to be raped and possibly murdered. Because she was sending a message to men everywhere that it's okay to rape women because they're not going to report it anyway. So the devil was using Christine Blasey Ford to keep abortion legal, and it backfired with their hashtag of why women don't report rape. I've been posting on Twitter under the hashtag why I don't report and why don't I report rape. You can read my tweets under the @GoTimothy on Twitter. I would suggest you go on Twitter and read some of these. Every one of these women have a legitimate lawsuit against the public school system for giving them such a lousy sex education. I don't know what they taught women in sex ed because I didn't go to a woman's sex ed class. However, what I was taught in the 4th grade sex education was absolutely horrendous. I remember the teacher telling us that if we masturbated, we would go gay. Even in 4th grade, I knew the teacher was full of shit. So I basically stopped listening after he said that. But I should have yelled out, if you don't masturbate, you'll become fat and stupid. Because the teacher was fat and stupid. I guess the reason why they didn't want you to masturbate is because if you did, you might find out that you don't need a woman, and they are using women to enslave mankind with jobs. Women have been used to enslave men with jobs since the time of King Gilgamesh. Now in the sex education they use large words that nobody knew the meaning of, and nobody could look it up in the dictionary. Because words like vagina, intercourse, or penis wasn't on any of the 4th grade spelling test. Even in 4th grade, I knew what the F word was, the C word, and the D word meant, but I could not connect them back to the words vagina, intercourse, or penis, because nobody in my neighborhood used those words. After reading some of the tweets under the hashtag why don't I report and why women don't report rape, I can see that sex education hasn't changed at all. Many of these women don't even know what rape is. They have no clue to consent, and for some reason, they don't think they are responsible for the rapes that will occur in the future because they refuse to report them. Furthermore, they seem to be telling the rapist that it's okay to rape them because they're not going to report it anyway. Many of these women are getting their sex education from the very men that raped them. My rapist boyfriend said it wasn't rape and that nobody would believe me, and I believe him because he is the rapist. One girl said she didn't want to report the rape because she didn't want to hurt her mother by letting her know that her baby was raped. How is this girl going to feel if her rapist comes back to her house, says he's a friend of her daughter's, and rapes her mother? I know how her mother is going to feel. She's going to feel like beating her daughter's ass for not telling her that her friend was a rapist. Ho ho ho's, We've both been raped by the same man. It absolutely boggles the mind to read some of those tweets. So I decided to make another sex education video. I think I made one a while back, but I deleted it off of YouTube. There's only one truth and there's millions of lies. Every one of those lies is easier to believe than the one truth. Because the devil is a smooth-talking liar. If it isn't what God teaches, then it is a lie. So either you get your sex education from God Himself, or you get your sex education from lying, murdering rapists. Those are your two choices. You don't have to believe what God says. That's your choice. You can be raped, murdered, and lied to, and you can die in your sins like everybody else. That's where I'll give women their choice. They want choice, you got it. I guess I should use a chalkboard, but I'll use this little piece of paper instead. I made up a little chart. Maybe I should, let's see, I don't know if you can read that. On this side, right here, we have what God teaches. Sex only when married. No sex outside of marriage. In fact, sex outside of marriage is considered adultery. One of the 10 Commandments is not to commit adultery. And the penalty for sin is death. So you want to commit adultery, then what's going to happen? All God teaches here, then all of this is adultery here, pointing towards rape and murder. Everything, it's like a one arrow one way. God teaches this over here. Rape and murder is on the other side of the page. All opinions and teachings in between then are lies. Now, people were made to believe that adultery was having sex with someone while you're married to someone else. But that's not adultery. Adultery is having sex with somebody who you're not married to. It doesn't matter if you're single. If you're having sex and you're not married, you are committing adultery. It's not about teaching abstinence or how to use a condom so you don't get pregnant or how to get an abortion if you do get pregnant. Sex education is about teaching people the truth. Teaching women the importance of reporting sex crimes should also be part of sex education. If you don't report the rapist, he's going to rape someone else, possibly your mother, your sister, your best friend, and if he's not caught, someday he may even rape your daughter when you have children. The world is so out of control that many of the tweets on Twitter is women who have been raped by other women or men who have been raped by other men or even men who have been raped by women. It doesn't matter. All rape should be reported. Excuses like you were afraid, embarrassed, afraid nobody would believe you, you didn't feel like you were obligated to report it, just makes you a criminal, because it is a crime not to report a crime. It would be like somebody seeing a woman getting murdered and saying, gee, I don't want to call the police. What if the police don't believe me? What if the police think I'm just an attention getter? What if the murderer comes and kills me? It's better to let that murderer kill another 100 women than call the police. That's why it should be a crime not to report a crime. Kristen Blasey Ford should have been arrested for not reporting an attempted rape 37 years ago. Can you imagine the message she sent to men everywhere? That you can get away with rape because she's not going to report it? She's got a bunch of good excuses why she don't have to report it. And you could read the thousands of excuses on Twitter women make up why they don't have to report rape. This is not a his word against your word. The victim's word always has more believability than the words of a rapist. So who are you going to believe, the victim or the rapist? If the police officer told you it was your word against his, then there's a very good chance that that police officer is in fact a rapist. If the police officer doesn't believe you, doesn't take a police report, make sure you write down that police officer's name and badge number and report him to the nearest news media. Then plaster his name all over the internet. We want to know who these rapist cops are. Okay, let's go back to the chart. God teaches this over here. Only sex when married. Anything else is going towards this way of rape and murder. Anything that God doesn't teach is a lie. There's only one truth and all the rest are lies. Everything on this side is a lie. People who teach premarital sex is okay are lying. It's not the truth. That's not what God teaches, so it's a lie. Most people are getting their sex education from music, radio, and TV. Somewhere in the middle of this chart, we got music, radio, and TV. They teach it's okay. They basically teach that sex is okay after 3 dates, right? Or whatever. This is a lie. Some may call it an opinion. But Bill Cosby, I put Bill Cosby over here, okay? Bill Cosby's opinion is that sex after 3 drinks or 3 date rape drugs is perfectly okay. And that's Bill Cosby's opinion, right? TV and radio, and those who believe sex before marriage is okay, that's their opinion. And their opinion is just as valid as Bill Cosby's opinion that sex is okay after date rape drugs, right? Because that's his opinion, right? What's wrong with sex after date rape drugs, says Bill Cosby. The farther you get away from what God teaches over here, the closer you get to what Bill Cosby and, the TV, the closer you get to rape and murder over on this side. Because it leads to rape and murder. Because murder is not that far away from rape. Many of the murderers in prison, if you ask them why they killed the woman, they will claim because she was screaming rape, right? If what Kristen Blasey Ford says was correct about Kavanaugh, when he covered her mouth when she was screaming rape, he could have smothered her, very easily smothered or choked her to death, right? She could have died if what she was saying was true. And that's what most murderers claim what happened. They just wanted to have sex, and the girl started screaming, and they were just trying to stop the girl from screaming, and she died. Whoops. There was a woman today on The View who claims she has an open marriage. She doesn't care if her husband has sex with other women. But there's many people that claim that, and then one day they find their husband in bed with a woman, and there just happened to be a loading gun sitting there on the dresser at the time. In the heat of the moment, they pick up the gun and they shoot their husband, and the next thing they know, they're in prison for murder. Premarital sex leads to pregnancy, which leads to abortion, which is baby murder. So you might just start thinking, you might be thinking, well, we're just having sex. What's the harm? It's just sex. Then you get pregnant, and the guy doesn't want to support the baby. Next thing you know, the guy is killing the woman and her baby. There's a lot of pregnant women that get murdered by somebody who doesn't want to have a baby. Well, you should have never had sex to begin with. And the guy doesn't want to support the baby, you have to get a job. And, then the guy is suggesting abortion, and Planned Parenthood is suggesting abortion. So next thing you know, you just had sex, and you said, well, there's nothing wrong with it, but then next thing you know, you got pregnant, then next thing you know, you're getting an abortion, and you're murdering the kid. So premarital sex is leading to rape and murder. Just kind of like alcohol seems to be a gateway to other drugs, sex is the gateway to rape and murder. So the real reason why the world is totally screwed up is because of premarital sex that leads to abortion, rape, and murder. In the military, it is still considered adultery to have sex outside of marriage. So it's not just God's law. The military adopted this law a long time ago. But nobody reports rape in the military because they think this law is too harsh, so everybody just ignores that law. But opinions about sex education is like anuses, right? Everybody has one. Everybody has an anus. Everybody has an opinion. Any opinion that's not what God teaches is just as valid as Bill Cosby's opinion that sex is okay after a date rape drug. Because if you're not going by what God teaches, you're just making shit up. You know, I'm an atheist. I believe premarital sex is okay. Well, Bill Cosby believes sex under the influence of date rape drugs is okay, and his opinion is just as valid as yours. So both of your opinions are just as valid, and they are not God's truth, then they are both lies. One is just a bigger lie. There are no big sins and little sins. There's only sin. So it doesn't matter if you're Bill Cosby who drugs and rapes women, or if you're a person who believes in premarital sex. You both fall into adultery. You both fall into sin. The penalty for sin is death, and it will lead to death. If it's not God's teaching, then it is the teaching of atheists or even Satanists. And I'm sure the atheists and Satanists are watching my videos and just going to teach the exact opposite of what I teach because they do not know the Lord. Sex education should also include how to meet people who are not rapists, atheists, and murderers. You don't want to go out on a date with somebody that you don't know. You don't even want to give someone you don't know your phone number. If you don't want to be raped, then don't go out with somebody you don't know. Nowadays, men and women get together by introducing themselves. But you don't know the person just because you know their name. That doesn't mean anything. What is the person like? Do they believe in sex before marriage? Do they believe in sex after a date rape drug? Do they believe in sex after the third date? Do they believe in sex after you become boyfriend and girlfriend? Many of these women on Twitter thought they were obligated to have sex once they became someone's boyfriend. They didn't think it was rape because that was their boyfriend. I mean, it's like, where are you being educated? Well, you sure ain't getting educated by the Bible or by the church. I don't know. You're being educated by atheists and rapists. You know, way back in the Bible, people never said, "Hi, my name is Tim. What's your name?" The first question you should ask anybody is, quote, "Do you know the Lord?" End quote. Because if the people don't know the Lord, there's no sense in wasting your time talking to them. If they don't know the Lord, they are murderers and rapists. Either you know the Lord or you're a murderer and rapist. There's no in between. There's no big sins or little sins. Those who don't know the Lord will die in their sins. Period. Many people claim to know the Lord when they don't. That's why the Bible says to test them, to see if they know the Lord. Do they believe in sex before marriage? Well, if they do, they don't know the Lord. They've never read the Bible. They haven't got a clue to what Jesus taught. They didn't pass the test. Why would you go out with them? They are liars, rapists, and murderers. Jesus sets people free. The birds do not toil, and the Heavenly Father feeds them. The earth is the Garden of Eden. Everything belongs to God. Do they believe in jobs? Because if they believe in jobs, then they don't know the Lord. Because the Lord did not give you a job building nuclear weapons, killing people in a war, or a job in the boxing ring punching people's faces in. I don't care what the church teaches you. The church is in the devil's power. Yes, while you're in Rome, you have to do as the Romans. But this is not God's system, and everybody who knows the Lord knows this. You're supposed to test the people to see if they are lying. Do they really know the Lord? Did the Lord set them free, or did the Lord give them a job in one of the FBI, Aaron Rouse's Las Vegas hospitality industry, giving BJs to ex-presidents? Did they see the Lord? Because the Lord is not invisible and the Lord is not dead. So if they did not see the Lord, then they do not know the Lord. Many who claim to know the Lord are liars, thieves, rapists, and murderers. Furthermore, they don't mind enslaving people with jobs for money. If you don't know the Lord, you have to speak to someone who does know the Lord. And you have to test those to make sure that they are not liars. No man of God is going to tell you to get a job. So if they're telling you to get a job, they don't know the Lord. You cannot serve God and mammon. No man of God is going to tell you premarital sex is okay. Okay? So if they told you premarital sex is okay, they don't know the Lord. They are not a man of God. No man of God is going to stop you from reporting rape. I'm surprised none of these women on Twitter have mentioned telling a priest what happened to them or got the preacher's advice. They just listen to the advice of cops and the advice of their school teachers and the advice of their friends and even the advice of the very man that raped them. Well, the man who raped me said that nobody would believe me, so I didn't go to the cops. Because he's a rapist, he must be right. You even have to be careful when you're giving consent to having sex. Just because you give consent to vaginal sex doesn't mean you gave consent to anal or oral sex. So it's still considered rape if you said, yeah, I'll go home with you and I'll have sex with you, and then he sticks his penis in your anus. Well, you have been raped. Or he sticks his penis in your mouth, you've been raped. You didn't want that. Now the definition of rape is even changed further, where women can say yes, but because they first said no, it's still considered rape. It's kind of like the salesman at Art Van Furniture. The high-pressure salesman won't take no for an answer, and you end up buying a couch that you didn't want. You said no about 5 times, but he sells you the couch anyway by convincing you this is the right couch for you. Then you take the couch home and you're miserable because it's not what you wanted. This is why there are so many women that believe they have been raped, even when they said yes, even when they gave consent. When all sex outside of marriage is the law, then rape is not a debate. See, if it's adultery to have sex outside of marriage, meaning it's adultery if you have sex while single, then rape is not a debate. Rape is very provable when you're basically a virgin and you don't believe in sex outside of marriage. Because if it's not your wife, so it must be rape. You're not married, you had sex, then it's rape. Sexual education is not a debate, and it's not an opinion. There's nothing but the law of God on one side, law of God here, and everything on the other side is lies. Either you believe in God's laws, or you believe in a bunch of lies and opinions, like Bill Cosby's opinion. And is Bill Cosby's opinion right? Well, God says no. And so is sex outside of marriage. And so is sex after 3 dates. Or sex after becoming engaged. Or sex after becoming a boyfriend. And so all you really need to know about a person is if they know the Lord. And then all you have to do after is test them to see if they know the Lord. And then there's nothing else to know. They know the Lord. What else is there to know? I mean, every one of these rapes, murders, and abortions are because people are not obeying God's law of adultery. God said, do not commit adultery. Adultery is sex outside of marriage. This doesn't mean if you rape a woman that she is automatically your wife. It means that you're a rapist and you need to go to prison. All rapes must be reported. Unreported rape leads to more rape and murder. If you reported your rape to the police and they did not believe you, then go to the emergency room and ask for a rape test kit. And I think that you should go to the emergency room first before going to the police. And one thing, you go to the emergency room when you're raped, they'll be able to give you tranquilizers to calm you down. They'll be able to do the rape test kit. And then you'll be able to take a shower right after the rape test kit. If you go to the police station first, you'll sit there for several hours trying to convince the cops you were raped, and you still got his body fluids inside you. So, I wouldn't want to sit around a police station for several hours telling them my story before I get my rape test kit and a shower if I was a woman. The police report can wait until after the rape test kit and the shower. If the doctor at the emergency room doesn't believe you, doesn't want to give you a rape test kit, write down his name and give that to the news media. And then go to another emergency room. There's usually several emergency rooms around the city. Because there's no doubt that doctor is a rapist if he doesn't want to give you a rape test kit when you've said you were raped. If the police don't believe you, you go to the news media and make sure you tell the news media the police officers' names that didn't believe you or take your report. Because they are rapists. If they support the rapist by not believing you, then they are no different than the rapist himself. Furthermore, they know more rapes will happen if your rape is not reported. The cops are not stupid. It's not the cop's job to believe you. It's the cop's job to take the report. If he does not take the report, you need to report him. He is not doing his job. If the news media doesn't believe you, print your story on a piece of paper and make 1,000 copies to warn all the other women in the neighborhood and at school. Because those other women need to know that there is a rapist on the loose and they need to know his name.